Let's talk about the Druid tax. So you're making your way through BG2, leveling up, getting that experience. And at some point, you're kind of stuck. Things kind of freeze. The other party members, if you're not making a solo run, they're leveling up. What the heck has happened? So in this Baldur's Gate vlog, we're going to explore through the eyes of the Druid, earning experience points and continuing leveling up, especially with regard to the Druid, because while there are some differences between the different character classes, the Druid in particular has this kind of funny holdover from the Advanced Dungeons and Dragons rules, where even though it's not illustrated in the game, back in the day in AD&D, each level had a title assigned to it. And in the role-playing game, your character would be addressed by this title. Druids at a certain level, based on the lore, based on the narrative in the game, you would go from full initiate to Archdruid. And in order to achieve that, there could be only one, and you had to kind of challenge at the conclave. So you literally froze at a certain experience point level where it took double or triple the amount to actually make it to that level. Because in the pen and paper game, that was a massive achievement. Compared to D&D Modern, just for a framework, we're going to jump into the Tactica here, of course. D&D Modern, the characters not only level up very, very fast, and it's equal, having a high-level character, level 15 plus, is nothing. You achieve that in a couple of months of playing. In AD&D, a third, fourth, or fifth, or sixth level character was a massive achievement, just in experience points and survival. That's why in BG1, the story and the way it takes place, it's at the lower levels, right? The lower character levels, even with the expansions, compared to modern D&D. That's pretty accurate. You know, if you're a third or fourth level fighter, that's a huge deal. If you're a level 6, 7, or 8th level character, fighter, magic user, thief, that is huge. You are affecting the realms. To be level 20 or higher is literally godlike. So within that framework, we're playing the game. We need to consistently be leveling up, because the other interesting thing about BG2 is now you're introducing some of the more iconic monsters. No spoilers in any of my BG videos that I've been pushing up to the playlist here. Maybe one or two, but I mentioned that at the beginning of the video. So no spoilers in this vlog. One of the things is now you start fighting some dragons and some iconic D&D monsters. So the fact that it doesn't necessarily follow a railroad linear framework, right? The game starts, and where are you going to go? What are you going to do? You might not be able to take on every quest right away. So you might proceed in the quest, make it halfway, stop, come back. You need to know how your levels stack against what you're potentially fighting. So leveling up is key. What you find with the Druid when you hit these levels, the biggest thing, of course, is you're going to freeze with hit points. Druids have an okay hit point pool. You know, they benefit from con 16, and then it kind of levels out. They're certainly not the weakest. They're certainly not the strongest. Fighting ability is okay, but the main thing is access to the Druid spells, especially if your primary character, the primary toon, is a Druid. Now, you can take other Druids in the party and play through that and have some synergy, but anytime you have a single character class in your party that's not a warrior, paladin, fighter-based berserker type class, you need to make sure you're leveling up and getting the most out of it, because that's all you have to fill that role in AD&D. So with the Druid, the biggest thing, once you pay this Druid tax of hanging out in the lore, which doesn't really exist in the game, the pen and paper translating AD&D to digital from back in the day, is your spell progression literally freezes. You gain access to level 6 and 7 spells, but not in any quantity to begin to make any effects. And we see this with sorcerers and wizards too. Once you gain one spell, level 7 or higher, That's pretty cool, right? Whether it's a mage and you can memorize different spells, or as a sorcerer or dragon disciple, you need to make that decision. That's cool. It's a lot of fun. But you only have one clicky. And that's a challenge because once you pop off that spell, that's it. Now, if it does some damage, if it's an effect spell, that's good. But if it's a type of spell where there's saves or persistent effects, it might work, it might not work. You need to spam out multiple spells at that level, especially given how powerful BG2 becomes. Not only beginning of game, it's manageable. Mid-game, end-game content, no spoilers, is huge. So the fact that you're playing a druid and you kind of freeze at these mid to higher levels, you need that experience. So the easiest way to do that, let's talk about experience points in BG2. You get them from killing monsters. Most of the monsters are still lower level experience points that you're going to chew through from random encounters or going to places on the map or going into buildings. Yes, it adds up. And over the course of the game, that is how your characters level up and bulk up. But we also need to really focus on quests. That's the difference between BG2 and BG1. BG1, you had this narrative going on, and there were primary quests, right? You had to, no spoilers, you had to kind of go to these certain points on the map and undermine and figure out what the heck was going on in the Sword Coast. There were a couple of side quests that you could pick up along the way, but they gave you some experience. Unless you were a completionist, it didn't make that much of a difference. BG2, the side quests are beyond important for the experience. You are missing out on significant overall power levels, but if you're playing a character that has an experience point tax, or in this case, the Druid tax, you're going to stall and just, that's where you're going to be. It's going to be a massive slog and a massive power curve. There's a few, I'm thinking of them right now, even having played through BG2 numerous times. There are a couple of story encounters, meaning you get a quest, you go on a story, and you fight some stuff, and you make your way through, that are extremely crazy and powerful. They're a lot of fun, but they will be extremely frustrating because even if you're using the tactics of summons and potions and optimized party, they're so powerful that you need the levels. You need the levels in your character and in the other party members to be able to begin to approach it. So you need to make it past that Druid tax. Going on the quests is huge because the quests are going to give you, they're going to give you experience points from fighting monsters. You're going to get some loot and a couple of named items. That's interesting. But the interaction with the NPCs, go and fetch this item and return it. Go and take care of this and return it. Go take care of this person, talk to them, come back, talk to this person. Besides being a narrative and a lot of fun, they're absolutely vital, even if you're not a completionist. That's how you get over the tax, the hurdle. It's still a hurdle. And I won't say it's a criticism of playing a druid because, again, being an AD&D enthusiast and regularly playing AD&D, I get it with the lore and the in-game balance. That didn't translate over well to BG, although there are some druid quests and some druid interactions which make the game fun, and that's before we even get into other engines like Icewind Dale. But it is something if you're playing a druid or some of the other character classes that level up slower, like magic users compared to thieves, then you need to figure out a way to get past, to pay that experience point tax.